This video is presented by Western and Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. Every great team starts with a strong foundation, and your future should too. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps protect what matters most so you can focus on winning today while planning for tomorrow. Whether you're just starting out your journey, building your dynasty, or ready to retire like a champion, Western and Southern has the right play for your life stage. Visit westernsouthern.com to get your free life insurance quote today. Western and Southern, built to win.
Let's get into part 3, Rams and Seahawks. Dalton, this game's gonna rule. There's just no other way around it. I mean, the things that the Rams do really well, the Seahawks defend really well against. There's no obvious. There's no obvious here. A lot of times that we've done this show throughout the year, and quite frankly, it's not often you get two teams that are this good matched up in the regular season, although this time, obviously, we got it 2 times already between these two teams. But there's often like, okay, this team can't really defend the run between the tackles, or, all right, this team really struggles against one-on-one matchups on the outside. Okay, well, I don't know if this team can handle this team's speed. These are just two of the best teams in the NFL, the best rosters, constructed so well, offensive and defensive player of the year caliber types of players, great coaches, all of that stuff. So where are we starting with this one? What do you want to hit on first? Seahawks side of things, Rams side of things, pass game, run game. Let's start the conversation.
We are going to start with the potential league MVP in Matthew Stafford, of course, right? And I think you're talking about maybe the best quarterback in football this year going against possibly the best defense in football this year. And what I was curious with Seattle shutting down everybody in the pass game lately, except for that win over the Rams and Matthew Stafford in Week 16, I wanted to go back to that game especially and see what was working, right? And Seattle lately has been going to a lot of too high shells in coverage. They're really keeping things in front of them and playing, I think, a lot more basic style coverages and even fronts up front with the way that they've structured their defense and just preventing explosive plays while they can defend the run with 7 in the box, right? So what Matthew Stafford did in that game was really dominate the middle of the field, and he's dominated the middle of the field all season. When you look at him throwing between the numbers, he's got the best passing grade in the NFL, 4th highest yards per attempt, 19 big-time throws this year, Trevor, between the numbers. 6 more than any other quarterback in the league. Now, the Seahawks, between the numbers, have the highest coverage grade in the league, right? When you talk about how well their linebackers have played, Ernest Jones and Drake Thomas, right? And Nicky Manwari is kind of that pseudo third linebacker, right? Julian Love and Kobe Bryant, the 2 safeties back there, I think they play a huge role in this game. But when you look at what worked for the Rams last time, a lot of in-cuts, attacking the intermediate level of the field in between that second and third layer of the defense. It wasn't necessarily the Rams getting over the top. It was attacking in front of those safeties, behind those linebackers, and Matthew Stafford just making excellent throw after excellent throw. That was Seattle's worst game of the year, defending the middle of the field, but I think they're going to make Stafford attack that area again, right? You don't want free access over the top on these deep shots for Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and all the other threats that the Rams have at wide receiver, right? Guys like Tutu Atwell who can get behind you. I think what the Seahawks are going to have to do on defense is decide. Now, most likely, they're still going to sit back in too high and make Stafford throw in front of them. But I do wonder, especially about the 2 safeties, Love and Bryant, if they're going to have to come up and drive on some of these in-breaking routes a little more often, right? Where Stafford had too much access to that part, that intermediate middle of the field area that he was thriving in last time. I wonder if you have the safeties drive on those routes more and make Stafford throw it over the top against this defense. Is he going to have enough time to do it, right? I think there's also an element to this where with Mike McDonald, how do you want to pressure Stafford? Because watching that last game as well, I'm going, look, stop blitzing him. It's not going to work. You're giving him bigger windows. He knows where it's coming from. He's one of the savants of the game at this position at this point at 37 years old. So do you stay with a standard rush and try to make him hold the football? And then do you drive on those in-breaking routes more often and make him beat you over the top and take that chance? I think there's so many elements of Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay against Mike McDonald in this game, in this passing game, that are going to be so much fun to watch because we've seen stretches of games where Seattle's won that battle and they've really shut it down. We've also seen stretches like in that second matchup where Stafford was winning that battle and creating explosive plays and controlling the middle of the field the way that no one else has done on the Seahawks. I think it's a fascinating battle between the best quarterback in football this year and the best defense in football this year.
Yeah, and that area of this game specifically is so interesting because even if the Rams come out, start playing one way, if it doesn't work, Stafford and McVay are good enough to change it up. Sometimes you get these quarterback and coaching combinations where you go, okay, this was our game plan during the week. This is what we tried to run. This is what we wanted to emphasize. And you come out on Sundays or whenever the game is, and you go, okay, that's actually not working the way that we thought it was. And you make little tweaks here and there, but ultimately the game plan is going to pretty much stay the same. Matthew Stafford, sort of like you mentioned, talented enough, and McVay's playbook is deep enough where they can go to so many different things. And so it's not just about getting the better of Matthew Stafford and the Rams' original game plan, what they want to do. This is a quarterback and a coaching combination that you truly have to stop for 60 minutes. Sometimes you get into overtime, and it's got to be even more than that. So that is a fascinating part of this. The Rams' run game, how can it be complementary towards what Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and those guys are doing in the passing game? Well, it's interesting because I just talked about how diverse the Rams' offense is in the passing game. It's also very diverse in the run game. Now, it's not the most explosive run game in the world, but they can do a lot of different stuff. When you look at Week 11 and Week 16, the weeks that they faced the Seattle Seahawks, outside zone and inside zone, so getting the offensive line to move a little bit, get a little bit lateral. Obviously, outside zone's a lot more lateral, but getting them to move a little bit more laterally, that is something that they had the most success with against the Seahawks earlier in the season. However, last week, and what we've seen from this team over the last, I would say, 2 years now, I feel like it's been the movement for the Rams. Man blocking concepts, just straight downhill, get between the tackles, letting these guys be bulldozers, combo blocks, duo blocks, just really just getting down the field in between the tackles. They're not afraid to do that as well. So what do they do against this Seahawks team? I think they're going to lean more to that zone run scheme, even though they know how to really punch you in the mouth. Maybe they come out and they start doing that initially because they want to be able to set the tone, and they don't want to give Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and DeMarcus Lawrence and those guys the ability to shoot the gaps. Like I think it was the Seahawks that had tweeted this out, where Leonard Williams was talking about how he was getting in the backfield recently, and Gray Zabel actually came up to him. He's like, "Hey, they're slanting a certain direction, like they're moving, they're sliding a certain way. Why don't when they slide, boom, just go straight forward? You're in the backfield right off the bat." And so they changed that, and Leonard Williams then was able to get in the backfield with a little bit more regularity to hold them off from being able to do that. Maybe you start the game plan and you say, "Hey, we've got the strength, we've got the ability to have a real good downhill run game. Let's start with that, and then the majority of our plan will be more of that inside and outside zone that we will get to in the second, third, fourth quarters, things like that." Leonard Williams, Ernest Jones, Byron Murphy, specifically, their worst run defense grades have come against those outside zone blocking concepts. DeMarcus Lawrence has been great, but basically against every single run concept. Nicky Manwari is obviously great with outside zone. Devon Witherspoon is as well. So it's not like it's a true weakness of the Seahawks, and that's why I started our conversation by saying there's not really this glaring like, well, the Seahawks don't do this very well. There's not a lot of that. You're trying to find the smallest margin or area that maybe they're not just elite at, that you might be able to manipulate a little bit for. So for Seattle, nothing is an easy task here, but I wonder if the Rams kind of go into it with that game plan. Let's try to push the defensive line. Let's try to run downhill to start the game, knowing that we want to set that up to get on the outside more often as the game goes on. Because what's interesting enough, Dalton, is people have talked about Puka Nacua so much, and of course what he does in the receiving game, the contested catches, winning one-on-one, all that great stuff. He is one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the NFL. Well, he has a 79.6 run-blocking grade against every team in the NFL, except the Seattle Seahawks, in which those 2 weeks that they played this season, he had just a 60.3 run blocking grade. Now, that's not terrible, but it's not as impactful as it is against other teams. And so all that to say, that's kind of my scope on what I think the Rams are going to do in the run game. It's kind of going to come down to execution, as maybe lame as that is to say. Like, Kyren Williams just has to be great after contact, because we know he's going to get this defensive line with Seattle's too good. Their linebackers are too good. Nicky Manwari's too good. Devon Witherspoon, he's too good. You've just got to be able to. We're not going to be able to manufacture all of these yards before contact. Not against Seattle. It's just not going to happen. Does Kyren get you a healthy amount of yards after contact in this game to get you those first downs, to get you those second and third and manageables, to get you into the end zone on short yardage situations? I think, to be honest, around all the game planning that goes on, that's what it's going to come down to. What is Kyren Williams' yards after contact average at the end of that game? And I think it'll tell a big story of what happened in the Rams run game.
I agree. When you look at what Seattle does so well in run defense, they're so fast, they're so athletic, and they prevent explosives, right? Because they have really good run defenders at all three levels, right? The defensive line is big, and they've got elite run stoppers, a linebacker unit, plus Nicky Manwari. They fly to the football, and then you got defensive backs like Devon Witherspoon who are willing to tackle within the box, right? So they don't give up a whole lot of explosive runs, and you're right. I think two things that to me are very important. One, it cannot be overstated, the return of Kevin Dotson last week against the Bears and how dominant he is. He's one of the top 10 run-blocking offensive linemen at any position in the league. It makes a huge difference when he's on the field, and that level of physicality that he brings in any of those concepts that you talked about. And two, I think Sean McVay's got to commit to it, right? I think he's got to stick with it. I thought early in the Bears game last week, he didn't stick with the run game early in the first half, and when they found momentum in the fourth quarter, it was because they were blowing open 5, 6, 7-yard runs for Kyren Williams to work with. Was it flashy in harsh conditions? Absolutely not. But this offense is at its best. Even with the MVP at quarterback, even with the best receiver in football at wide receiver, they still need balance in this offense. They've got to establish that level of physicality, because you know what opens up those intermediate windows, like I mentioned? Play action. And if you can make Seattle at least respect your run game to a certain extent, especially at that second level, that linebacker level, then you talk about opening those windows just a little bit wider for Matthew Stafford to work with. So you're right, it's very important. You might not get a lot of explosive runs, but you've got to establish the physicality up front. The return of Dotson is huge, but McVay has got to stick with it. He's got to be patient with it and make sure it's a big part of his offense in this game.
What about Seattle's run game? Let's talk about their run game first before we talk about their passing game in a minute.
So this is one where I focus more on personnel, because obviously Clint Kubiak loves his 12 personnel, 2 tight ends being on the field. Obviously A.J. Barner has been so good all year. Guys like a veteran and Eric Saubert, if they have Elijah Arroyo back healthy, that can help as well. But when you look at the Seahawks in 12 personnel, they lead the league with a 91.7 rushing grade. They lead the league with 5.5 yards per carry. They're the best 12 personnel rushing team in the league, and they're getting better as the season goes on, as their offensive line has gotten a lot better the last month. Gray Zabel and Abraham Lucas. We'll see if Charles Cross is healthy. That's going to be a big factor in this game, both in the run and pass game. But I look at this team getting in heavy personnel, and then you look at the Rams against 12 personnel. We have seen the cracks lately, right? And their response generally, you talk about so many teams getting in base to match 2 tight ends on the field, right? But for the Rams, that's not a third linebacker. It's a 5th defensive lineman. We talked about this a bit with the Bears last week. Now, when they had 5 defensive linemen on the field against the Bears, pretty good job. Held them under 4 yards per carry. When they had 4 defensive linemen out there, it was a lot worse than that. I think it was 9 carries for close to 80 yards that the Bears had when the Rams had 4 defensive linemen on the field. So what you're looking at, to me, okay, the Rams against 12 personnel, 19th in run defense grade, and they've allowed the second most yards per carry, 5.6. What's going to happen here is, one, can the Seahawks offensive line play as physically as they have the last couple weeks, okay? And it's a lot different when you're talking about the difference between the Rams defensive line and the 49ers, okay? So you've got a lot tougher task here. 2, can you beat the second level to the spot, right? Especially those 2 linebackers, Nate Landman and Omar Spates, right? And number 3, Kenneth Walker now as the only back really that's going to be relied upon in this backfield, right? He's going to have to carry this load. With Zach Charbonnet done for the rest of the season, it's going to be on Kenneth Walker to prove, look, listen, man, you're going to be a free agent this offseason. You want to make this money? You got to break some tackles and create explosive runs against a really good defense. The last thing I would say, I wonder if Sam Darnold has the freedom at the line of scrimmage against lighter fronts when the Rams are in nickel and even dime, and they've played a lot of dime against Seattle this year, does he have the freedom at the line of scrimmage to check into run calls when the Rams are in a lighter box? Because that's when they get exposed, is when they don't have that fifth defensive lineman out there, especially if they're playing 4 against Seattle's 12 personnel. There's a lot in the play calls that are going to go into this for Clint Kubiak, and I think potentially there's a lot of checks that Sam Darnold can make into optimal run calls at the line of scrimmage. You're going to get a really fun battle in the trenches, both just like last week against the Bears, both physically and with the schemes that are coming along with it.
Well, Dalton, the problem with that, because I completely agree with you. Like that's what Sam Darnold kind of needs, the ability to be able to check into those runs versus lighter boxes. But I went back and this morning I was watching a lot of those Seattle games against the Rams earlier this season, because I saw the numbers: 46.5 passing grade, 37.8 passing grade under pressure, 32.0 passing grade versus the blitz in those games against the Rams that he has had earlier this year. And a lot of times, you mentioned, like, okay, if there's a lighter box, does he have the ability to check into it? The problem is that Chris Shula has been so good at one-look pre-snap versus what you end up seeing post-snap. There were so many times when I watched where it was like mugged looks where there's 6 guys, there's 5-6 guys like on the line of scrimmage, these linebackers, these stand-up guys. You have no idea where the pressure's coming from. That doesn't look like a light box to you. You know, if you got 5, 6, 7 guys crowding the line of scrimmage, that doesn't look like a light box for you. But then the ball gets snapped, only 4 are coming, but they're coming from different directions. Sometimes there were only 3 defensive linemen that were coming, but it involved like a really good execution of a stunt on one side and then just one guy really bull rushing with a ton of momentum on the other. And then what I saw consistently on those bad Sam Darnold plays against the Rams, the coverage was built in a way where it could still be so aggressive to when Sam Darnold was loading up to throw the football. Sometimes it was corners being in off coverage and just having enough space where they felt like they could trigger downhill and get an interception. But a lot of other times it was the safeties. It was safety rotations where Cam Curl or Cam Kinchins or Quentin Lake or whoever it is was almost just given freedom to roam. Hey, we got everything else handled. We've got enough guys in coverage. And then you designate one of those guys to just say, roam the field. Watch his eyes. Aggressively come downhill on like the first route that you think that he is going to throw in the progression, whether it's the first one, the second one, whatever. And you just have a player that is totally roaming the middle of the field that Darnold is late to see or doesn't quite see. Like, it was just, I feel as though the Rams offense gets talked about a ton because, of course, they've got a player who could win Offensive Player of the Year in Puka Nacua. And a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who could win MVP. But on the defensive side of the ball, the pre-snap looks to then post-snap confusion for a lot of quarterbacks, Sam Darnold included, has been a masterclass this year from the Rams. And so I don't want people going into this game thinking like, oh, like Seattle's defense is the one that we have to talk about. Seattle's defense is worthy of all of the praise that it gets. But when we say that these are 2 very evenly matched teams, we mean it on both sides of the ball. And what the Rams were doing to just really rattle Sam Darnold over those 2 weeks that they played them in Week 11 and Week 16, I just thought was really, really impressive. Who are you going with in this game? Who are you picking? Seattle? Or are you taking the Rams?
One more thing on Sam Darnold here, and you mentioned it with the rotations, and I think there's 2 problems that the Rams defense causes him. Number 1, a lot of too high shells, which we've talked about earlier in the season. 2,
sometimes it was 3 high. Sometimes it was 3 high shot. I saw one of the plays, I can't remember if it was an interception or if it was just a turnover where they played for him, but they had 3 safeties, Dalton, lined up like in between the hashes. So it's like, okay, I have no idea where this is going the second the ball hits my hands. And I think one of them turned into a robber, one of them went deep, and the other one ended up covering, I think, a wide receiver like in man coverage, like immediately buzzed down and picked up a wide receiver in man. So, yes, deep safeties. I just wanted to point that out. When I saw that play, I was just like, gee, what are you supposed to do against this? You don't even know where these guys are going.
2, the Rams run the 3rd highest rate of simulated pressures in the NFL, which causes Darnold some problems, especially you mentioned post-snap rotation. That's not just with the safeties. That is up front also in figuring out who's dropping off the line of scrimmage. Over the last 2 years, just a 61.6 passing grade when you have a simulated pressure on for Sam Darnold. Bottom 10 in the NFL, and the Rams do this at a very high rate. It's a reason he has struggled with them in the 4 times that he has played them over the last 2 years. So that's going to be big, him deciphering coverages post-snap. And I do think this game does in part come down to which quarterback can handle those too high looks and throw into the intermediate part of the field better. I think that's one factor. I think either team that has balance and gets the run game going obviously is going to be a big factor. Seattle has a decided advantage in special teams. That's somewhere the Rams have really struggled all season, and Rashid Shaheed, especially as the kick and punt returner now for Seattle's made a big difference since they traded for him. I'm going to go with the Seahawks, 27-24. I think the big thing that sticks with me with this matchup, number one, honestly, if this game was in LA, I probably do take the Rams. So the Seahawks, the home field advantage, I do think helps. Sam Darnold has to protect the football if they're going to win this game. They lost the turnover battle in each of the first 2 games. You want to even that out a little bit more. And I think the other factor that sticks the most, right now Seattle's playing their best football. For the better part of a month and a half, the Rams have not been playing their best football, in the secondary especially. And in these 2 playoff games, Matthew Stafford has not quite looked like himself. He's going to have to find it again, that MVP form, if they're going to win this game, because he might be the only quarterback in football this season that can score consistently on the Seahawks defense, but not the way that he's played the last 2 weeks. I'm going to ride the hot hand. I think Seattle looks like the best team right now. Give me the Seahawks at home.
I don't think it would be right if we both pick the same team in this matchup. I'm taking the Rams. I'll take the Rams at the exact same score that you predicted, 27-24. I'll just flip it. I think it's a gift that we get this matchup here. I'm going with the better quarterback that I think is the better quarterback. Maybe won't be the better quarterback in this game. Like you mentioned, he struggled a little bit lately. And yet, Matthew Stafford, you're right, hasn't looked as good as he did in the beginning and middle parts of the season. And yet, here they are. Winners of 2 in a row on the road, and that's because that even the worst of Matthew Stafford still gives you a chance to beat really good teams, even in the postseason. So this is my favorite football game that we have previewed the entire year, which is a fitting way to wrap up our championship week coverage here.
Everyone's got takes. Numbers have truth. And the truth is, most people are betting with emotion. Sportsbooks feed on it. TikTok gurus sell it. The hype machine runs on it. That's how you lose. PFF is different. You're betting with winning data. The same data trusted by all 32 NFL teams and the sharpest minds in the game. PFF betting tools take every prop, every matchup, every angle, and run them through our custom models. Built on the best football data in the world. What comes back is your edge. Simple, sharp, and built to win. Want to go deeper? PFF puts a pro-level analytics department in your hands, giving you the same insights teams use to find every advantage. Build your game plan with matchup analysis. Project every snap, every matchup, and every edge before kickoff. Because the smartest plays start long before Sunday. Hit rates show how a player performs against their prop and against defenses built the same way. It's the data that gives you real confidence in every pick. Next, Key Insights translates PFF data into the story behind every matchup, giving you the why that powers your bets. From coverage schemes to defensive looks, it's the context that turns raw numbers into winning decisions. When you're ready to take action, filter through every prop on the market and focus on the opportunities that matter, by game, matchup, or value. Then, shop for the best available line in your area and tap your book of choice to place the bet instantly. Everyone's got takes, but now you've got truth. Bet with data, win with PFF.